Hey guys, how's it going? Twiggs here, and today we're going to be talking about a particular topic, and that is, are the Genshin characters getting too niche? And if niche is a good thing or a bad thing, or is it a little bit of both? So, before we jump into that topic, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel, helps get the YouTube algorithm working in our favor so we can grow the channel, grow a community over here. Cool stuff. Also, hit that notification bell so you'll be informed whenever I go live or upload any new content. And when you do subscribe to this channel, you're going to be subscribing to more gaming content like this. So, hit that subscribe button. Like I asked, are Genshin characters getting too niche? Well, what do I mean by niche? What I mean by niche is, are characters just fitting into a specific role without any versatility at all? Literally at all. We got Nailu here, who locks herself into a Hydro or Dendro team if you want to use her optimally. You have Goro over here, who just locks himself into a Geo comp. You have Kujo Sara, who works well with other Electro characters if you have her C6. You have Sayu over here, who really only works in overworld comps, like just exploring, going around about, collecting things, but really not meant for combat in particularly. Shinha, who only works really well with cryo characters, and Yun Jin, who only works with normal attack teams. So, that's what I kind of mean by niche. Characters that just fit a specific role and don't have much versatility. With that being said, and with that kind of explained, is niche a bad thing? Honestly, well, that's a tricky question. It's a no if it's done right. Niche is a way of preventing power creep. It also encourages build diversity, but if done wrong, or just poorly, it can make new characters feel underwhelming compared to other characters, and it will just make the players just revert to old units because they're just genuinely better because they're more versatile. What I mean by that is, let's take Nailu. She's meant to be more of a main damage dealer when she's used in her particular team composition of just being locked in Dendro or Hydro. If you were to try to use Nailu in any other particular way, like not using her in a Dendro Hydro team, well, she's going to fall short compared to characters like Ayato or Tartaglia. So that's what I'm kind of getting at. Can niche be a good thing? The answer is yes. Like I said, it can help prevent power creep. But like I said, if it's done right. Characters like Goro are an example of this. Goro locks himself, yes, into a Dendro team, but not completely. He does allow versatility. I'm going to keep coming back to this word because versatility is key. See, Goro's niche only really locks him into just having to have 3 Geo characters, meaning you can have himself plus 2 other Geo teammates, but with a spot opened up to allow another character to be in there of a different element to help support the team. For example, in a Goro Geo team composition, you can throw in Raiden Shogun to help create Electro, therefore crystallizing to help make shields, and also having Raiden Shogun act as a battery for the team. Or you can, if you need like crowd control, you can just throw in characters like Kazuha or Venti to suck characters in, and then, like, let's say if you're using Arataka Ito as your main DPS, Arataka Ito can just take advantage of that and smash everybody when they have been sucked in. That is an example of niche being done right. Let's take another character that's niche, but not too bad. Shinha. Yes, her buff only works with cryo. Therefore, let's say you were wanting to use Aiko or Ganyu as your main DPS, Shinha can buff them, But you don't really have to run other cryo characters. You can use Zhongli or any other shield unit to act as your shielder, or a healer to just help heal the team. And then you can use your force spot for whatever else you want, like a crowd control unit like Kazuha or Venti or Sucrose, or any other character that you want to help make your team good. Yunjin is another case. Yunjin doesn't lock you into a certain team composition. All Yunjin requires is just a normal attacker like Ayato, Tartaglia, let's say Heizo. There's multiple characters like Yoimiya that can take advantage of Yunjin's buff. So even though there are niche characters, they don't lock you in completely. There's still versatility for team compositions. Whereas Nilo, on the other hand, and let me just be fair, it's not completely Nilo's fault. Even though Nilo locks you into a Dendro Hydro team, like I said, it's not completely her fault. It just means that the team composition that she needs, well, even though it's very restricted to Hydro Dendro, part of the issue is that as of right now, there's only 3 Dendro characters in the game. Tignari, Kale, and Dendro Traveler. So, right now, there's only 3 characters you can pick from. And one of those characters happens to be a 5-star. So not everyone's going to have Tignari. So if you were one of those people that didn't wish for Tignari or didn't get him, your only access to Dendro is going to be, well, Kale and Traveler. And that means that, well, if you're going to use Nilo, you're really only going to have slim pickings. So that's what I mean by it's not completely her fault, because there's just so many Dendro characters in the game right now until we get Nahida, Alhaitham, or whatever Dendro characters that happen to come down the line in the future. Like I said, it's not Nilo's fault completely that she's so restrictive, but it's still a very restrictive team composition being locked into just Dendro Hydro. What this means is you're really kind of locked out of crowd control units like Venti or Kazuha or Sucrose. So that means that if you're in a situation where you're going to need crowd control, well, you're out of luck. You're not going to have access to that with just Dendro and Hydro. So that's where some of the issues come in line with. And some of the best battery units like Fischl or Raiden Shogun, you don't have access to them either. That's where the issues fall in line. If you can't get all the enemies in one spot, if you're fighting enemies that like to go off on their own, like let's say a Fatui gunslinger, I mean, you may be able to take him out, but if you're fighting a lot of enemies, the Pyro Gunslinger, the Mushroom creatures, they like to go off on their own. They don't like to group up. And that's where some issues are going to come into play. But again, is niche a bad thing? Like I said, no, it is not. But it's something Hoyoverse has got to tread carefully with. Like I said, if you don't use niche, then you're going to have to probably go down the other path, which is power creep. But power creep can potentially break the game and cause older units to fall behind. What I mean by this is kind of like an example of, let's say, Klee. Klee was kind of good when she first came out because she did a lot of damage. And she was Pyro, and Pyro has really good synergy with Vaporize teams and Melt teams for obvious reasons, especially Vaporize. Well, she was a Pyro main DPS, and what happened eventually? Hu Tao came to the game. Yoimiya came to the game. And they kinda, in a way, power creeped the crap out of her. Same thing goes for D-Luke. D-Luke was power crept by Hu Tao and Yoimiya. And if anybody really enjoyed D-Luke or Klee, that could make them kind of feel burned due to the fact that their units kind of fell behind when it came to Hu Tao and Yoimiya. That's what I mean by players could feel a little burned by their favorite characters potentially falling behind due to power creep. And like I said, this can make players feel like they gotta wish for new characters because of FOMO. If you, like I said, were a fan of Klee or Diluc, and you see Yoimiya and Hu Tao, hear the rumors that they're super powerful, well, you're gonna, like I said, feel a little burned, but if you want to have the next good Pyro unit, you're gonna want to wish for Hu Tao or Yoimiya. And like I said, it can be upsetting for the players. But, like on the opposite side of the spectrum, if you don't go with power creep, you potentially start going down the path of making characters feel niche. And niching characters can upset the players because the characters come off weak or kind of very niche. Example, Nilo. So players eventually or potentially will feel burned when they don't like the character because of those reasons. If you're not a big fan of Nilou's playstyle, if you don't like just creating bloom teams, if you don't like being restricted to just using Hydro or Dendro, well, you may be a little upset, and if you wished for her thinking she might be good, and in turn you don't like the gameplay, let's not say she's not good. In her specific team composition, she is kind of good. But if you just don't like the playstyle, you're going to feel burned because you didn't care for the character for the way they played. Same thing goes for if anyone wished for Goro. If you're not a fan of Geo teams, you may not care for Goro. If you're not a fan of using Cryo teams, you may not end up being a fan of Shinha. So, there's good and bad to both power creep and niching. And it's one of those things you gotta tread carefully with. Both sides have their pluses and both sides have their downfalls. Both sides can make players in a way feel burned for their own respective reasons. So, I think Nilou is a case of potentially going too far with making a character feel niche. I think they might have should have went down the route of Goro, like making the talent say your team has to have one other Hydro and has to have at least one Dendro. With that wording, that would leave you with an open spot, kind of like Goro. Goro only limits you to 3 Geo. So, I think that Nilo would have been a lot better off if maybe it left one spot open in your team composition to be whatever you want. That would make her probably feel a lot better. So, I think when it comes to this route that Hoyoverse is going, with making characters feel niche, to sum it up, I think Nilo's an example of going too far. And I'm hoping that Hoyoverse kind of lets off the gas pedal a little bit and doesn't go too far anymore with making characters feel super niche. And that's probably where I'm going to leave it at.
So let me know in the comments down below on what you think Hoyoverse is doing with niching characters. Do you think, like me, that Hoyoverse is kind of going a little too far with making characters feel niche? Or are you wanting to go the opposite route? Are you wanting Hoyoverse to go full power creep? Or if I would say you were on my level with the thought process, I kind of want a fine line in the middle. I think there always has to be a balance. You gotta make characters feel good and strong, but you don't want to go too far and just break the game and make everything easy because you power creeped the hell out of characters. I think, in my opinion, there has to be a fine line.
So, again, let me know in the comments down below what you think. Are you for power creep? Are you for niche? Are you like me? You want a fine line in between? And with that being said, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel, helps the YouTube algorithm work in our favor so we can grow the channel and grow a community over here. Also hit the
Notification bell so you'll be informed whenever I go live or upload any new content like this. And I'll catch you guys later.